I want to talk about the 3 ways that I use Pinterest to rewire my brain and upgrade my life, and share some of the science behind why it might work for you as well. So grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. Visualization is a powerful technique that tells your brain what it is that you want it to focus on. It helps your brain to filter out all of the noise and to hone in on the things that are going to help you to achieve your goals, and it supercharges your likelihood for being able to do this. There is one thing that I find myself recommending to my personal brand coaching clients over and over again lately, and that is to use Pinterest. I'm not one to usually encourage people onto more social media or digital platforms if they don't need to be, but I do feel that Pinterest can be truly life-changing. I'm certainly not new to Pinterest, but I've started to use it particularly in the last year in a different way. I used to use Pinterest predominantly to pin away for my love of interior design and home design. And I've always found it to be particularly useful in research for major projects. For example, Pinterest was my best pal when I was planning our wedding. Now I use Pinterest a lot more strategically, and I align that to my more specific personal goals. Because remember, Pinterest is predominantly a search engine and a curation tool. I've talked about a lot on this channel this idea of building a second brain, which was popularized by Tiago Forte. And if you want to know more about this concept, then check out my previous episode on how to build a second brain. But what I have found is that Pinterest is the perfect place to be able to build your second brain. While a lot of people might use things like notes apps or take notes on different devices in different ways, Pinterest for me is a way that I can still do those things, but actually have a visual element to my second brain. So when it comes to your personal knowledge management, which is what your second brain is, this becomes a visual outlet for you to be able to execute that element of your personal brand on. And the idea of doing this is that the information or the images that you capture on Pinterest is going to be of use to your future self. Now let's dive into more specifically the 3 ways that you can use Pinterest to supercharge your goals. Tip number 1 is to create vision boards aligned with your goals. Vision boards are psychology meets creativity at its best. Visualization, as it's understood in neurolinguistics programming, argues that the mind can't differentiate between what is real and what is vividly imagined. So detailed visualizations for desired outcomes becomes this form of mental rehearsal. By consistently visualizing, you rewire your subconscious to align your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to your goals. But the key is detailed visualization. A vision board is not the same as a mood board, but we will talk about the value of mood boards a little bit later in this episode as well. But a mood board is generally designed to be more aesthetic. It might be about more positive vibes, for example. But a vision board is designed to be much more detailed. It's designed to tell your brain exactly what it would look like if you were to achieve that thing that you want it to be able to focus on. And the way that it does this is by engaging your brain's reticular activation system. Your brain's reticular activation system helps you to filter out all of that noise and focus on what is most important. Take, for example, if you decide that there is a particular car that you want. Maybe you know the model and the color. All of a sudden, you start to notice that you are seeing that car everywhere. Suddenly, it feels like everyone is driving what your dream car is. It's more likely that the amount of people who are driving your next car hasn't actually changed, but your brain has now developed a system to focus in on that, and you can use that to your advantage when it comes to achieving your goals. You can help your brain to focus on what is most important. I've started to create an annual vision board, and at the moment I do this on Canva. But I use Pinterest to break this down even further. For example, why focus on just one yoga picture when I can have a whole board curated with yoga power poses to inspire me throughout the year? It also acts as a reference to the different things that I might want to more specifically learn. And that becomes a way to use vision boarding to be more specifically related to your goals. Or as another example, why have just one photo to inspire you to eat healthy when you can create a whole board on Pinterest that not only has inspiration value, but also has information value as well? With this approach, healthy eating never looked so good because you have at your disposal all of the foods that you really want to focus on in this season. Which brings me to my next tip. Tip number 2 is to create short-term seasonal boards on Pinterest. If vision boards are more about being specific and detailed, mood boards are more about creating a feeling or style or an atmosphere. Like many people, I used to casually self-diagnose myself with seasonal depression. As a summer lover through and through, I was not a winter person. For me, the idea of heavy clouds meant a heavy heart. And by chasing the summer sun, I found that I was wishing the rest of my year away and wishing my life away, not just actually embracing the present moment of the season that I was in. But all of that changed this winter in Australia thanks to Pinterest. I found myself actually thrilled to be welcoming those winter months and even sad to be bidding it farewell as it finished up. And this shocked me because I was never like this, but Pinterest had helped me to rewire my brain and my mindset to be more present in the moments that I was in. So here's how I did this, and it actually started back in autumn in Australia. On the first day of autumn, I created an autumn mood board of all of the things about autumn that I actually do love, like the leafy autumn streets or a soul-warming Shiraz, for example. And by doing this, it allowed me to start to actually feel excited about the next few months ahead. And I took this approach into winter as well. And I've just created a board for spring here in Australia too. Because I'm such a big believer in visualization, I couldn't help but evolve these more general mood boards into more specific mini vision boards of sorts. So for example, I would research at the start of that season the seasonal fruits and vegetables that were best at that time. And I would include these on my board. So then when I go shopping every week, I have a reference to be able to plan the food that I want to eat for the week ahead and know what's in season. This can ensure that you're eating food that is actually the best quality at that time and even the best price as well. And within those seasonal boards, I would think about the different festivities that might be happening at that time. Maybe it's Valentine's Day or Easter, and start to incorporate ideas for how I would celebrate those things as well. And with each of those seasonal boards, I would also consider my main vision board and ask myself if there was anything that has potentially dropped out of my routine. Maybe I'm not doing it as consistently as I would like to. For example, am I playing the piano as much as I would like to? And if I feel like there is something that needs to be popped into a seasonal vision board as a reminder of what I would like to focus on in that time, I will add that to my seasonal vision board too. And this can also be helpful in really allowing you to embrace things that maybe have a particular season in your year. For example, they might be a particular habit that you want to have or a particular hobby that you want to indulge in, and it's more suited to doing that in the autumn or the winter months, or maybe there's something that is more suited to summer. It gives yourself a bit of flexibility to think about those boards as being almost little mini years, so you can focus on what is most important and most relevant to your environment at that time. And a lot of this comes back to the 12-week year mindset, which is another way that I have rewired my brain to achieve my goals. And if you want to know more about this 12-week year concept, then make sure you check out my previous episode on this. Tip number 3 is to conquer the everyday. Vision boards and mood boards bring out our best self, But the day-to-day grind has a way of bringing us back down to reality or to our comfort zone. And this is where it becomes really important to create your vision boards or your mood boards with a mindset of having long-term resilience as well. So I've learned to plan for having to overcome adversity, or at least to pin for it. Grant Cardone, in his book, The 10X Rule, which is one of my favorite books, talks about the common mistakes that are made when it comes to goal setting. And that includes setting goals that are too low, underestimating the actions, the resources, the money, or the energy required to achieve those goals, focusing on competing instead of dominating, and underestimating the resilience required. So you can use Pinterest as a tool to help you to build your resilience. The way that I do that is to have a board specifically dedicated to mindset. These are all images related to words or phrases or quotes that I find inspiring. And then by adding a quick scroll of these into my routine, it is a way to rewire my mindset to focus on how I can overcome adversity when it comes to pursuing my goals. This is almost daily affirmations made easy. You have access to some of the most motivating words at your fingertips, and they're all curated to be what is most relevant to you. In my personal experience, I have found that the things that I pin to this board are often subconsciously curated as this almost antidote to the negative voices that could be potentially keeping me from achieving my goals. So over time, you have the opposite of the things that could potentially be holding you back to be able to access at any point. And with the everyday in mind, I try to not take a set and forget approach to my Pinterest board, and I build in a few minutes of scrolling into my day. Whatever it is that I want to focus on will be what gets my attention at that particular time. But as much as possible, I try and scroll all of the things that are related to my goal. Remember that visualization is about training your brain. So you need to train your brain to remember to continue to focus on these things. One of the cool things about this is because your mood boards are so specifically aligned to your goals, your home feed then is trained in the algorithm to give you goal motivating goodness that is only going to help you get more ideas or to add to your various different boards. This coming year or season, don't simply write down your goals. Increase your likelihood of success by creating visual cues. If you're interested in more about how you can build your second brain, then check out my previous episode on this. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.